deflate the chip track camera speed. And action.
Is this where you guys want me?
We have fun here. The fun will continue.
What does that do?
Oh, it's green. Hi, I'm Steve Gibson, and we're here at Palo Alto Networks to peel back the layers from the Quantum Safe Summit. Today, you'll hear from the architects of Palo Alto Networks strategy, Rich, Michael, and Richu, as well as seasoned cybersecurity influencers to discuss all things quantum. Because the shift is happening now. So let's demystify the tech, move past the hype, and turn the theoretical threat into practical readiness. Okay, so the aim here is trying to demystify, bring together, trying to learn what is quantum, what is it about, and you guys kind of know the questions to ask, and my folks over here, you're hopefully going to be able to answer these questions. So who wants to get started? What's the first, let's start with a softball. What's the first question you want to ask?
I can start. I can give the easiest softball. Quantum feels like it's been 10 years away forever. What's like the most realistic thing that we need to worry about in cybersecurity and quantum, not 10 years from now, like right now?
Can we first start with what the heck is quantum? Because my audience is like, what the heck is quantum? And sometimes I'm still confused.
So you're preempting his question.
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can take a stab at.
Yeah, we could, sure. Any one of us could probably go. Yeah, go ahead.
Just a second. Okay, you got it.
What's quantum? How about we go down the line? What's quantum in your own words? Because I feel like
that's a great.
everyone has different definitions.
That's a great way to put it.
I'll try it in my words, and you guys.
Go for it.
Try it in your words, I guess. So it's a new form of computer that's actively being developed by a lot of different organizations. Some in the public sector, various different government organizations as well. And the idea is that this new form of computer is much more efficient at solving certain types of complex problems. And one of those complex problems happens to be the mathematics behind most of today's encryption. So maybe I'll start there. It doesn't include any quantum physics. That's probably as simple as I can make it.
Love it.
And I'm sure you guys have some stuff to add.
Yeah, actually, I can extend off that if it's okay.
Yeah.
What I love about that is you're exactly right. At its most simple, it solves problems. What is interesting about it to me is that it exploits quantum mechanics. Now, we won't get into quantum mechanics, but when we think about conventional computers using bits, zeros and ones, and actually, there's a really good analogy you can use with this.
Do you have a qubit in your pocket?
I have a coin.
I have a coin. The coin is the easiest
The
way.
coin is the easiest one, and it's either heads or it's tails. So conventional computers work this way. And when you have a quantum computer, instead of using a bit that's either heads or tails, or 0 or 1 as we think of it, it's moving, and it's 0 and 1. It's heads and tails at the same time, constantly. And so when you hear about, these quantum computers, they have, I think, what are we at, over 1,200 qubits right now, something like that. And so there's 1,200 of these things spinning around, and it's because of that, magic, in air quotes, is what makes it so incredibly powerful at solving these complex problems, like Rich said.
It was so easy to understand. I love the way that he explained quantum with the coin. Honestly, that completely changed the way that I viewed it.
I love the coin analogy that Mike did. I think I want to buy a coin.
I'm going to try to add to that. I think that was the most simplest way to answer what a quantum computer is. But let's kind of extend that to what it implies for security today, right? With that in mind, encryption, as we know it for the last 50 years, was built on extremely complicated mathematic algorithms. And the idea behind, let's say, an RSA, which is prime number factorization, or elliptical curve, which uses logarithms, was that these complex math cannot be reverse engineered or broken by the zeros and ones kind of classical computers that exist today. However, what a quantum computer can do is be able to reverse engineer those keys that was used in encryption of today's existing data or data in general. And of course, it takes stability, it takes error correction, it takes a lot more engineering on the quantum compute side of things. Are we there to break RSA in 5 years, 10 years is typically usually the question that gets asked very fairly commonly. It just depends on who you're asking.
Q-Day, for people who don't get it, it's the premise that we'll have a quantum computer at the scale that will be able to break modern cryptography today.
Beyond the fact that encryption is going to be broken today, tomorrow, 10 years, the goal here is to focus on the fact that this encryption is already used. It's being used for the last 50 years to encrypt data. And so if I can steal your encrypted data, and should this cryptographically relevant, strong enough quantum computer come to viability, I can break that encryption. And now I suddenly have access to your sensitive data. Now that is the threat. The threat is not the Q-Day, as most of the industry calls it. The threat is today. Anybody who's stealing encrypted data is already putting you at risk.
So Q-Day is that day when we will just be able to decrypt every data that's there.
There is no single day. Yeah. I mean, it would be fantastic if a nation state or somebody in the private sector came out and proved to us that that day has arrived. Maybe we should expect that in the next 5 to 10 years, but there isn't a single day. The threat is already about stealing encrypted data today.
People are now, talking and projecting that they can build a quantum computer, let's say in 8 or 10 years, something like that. But when I look what's out there, I think there's enough compelling stories that people should start taking seriously that such a machine could be built in 5, 8, 10 years. So, it's a ways off. It's enough to plan for it, but, it's quite possible that it will come. I think people have to start worrying about it a little bit sooner than later, starting now. But, they have a few years to think about it carefully. But it's something that is a real threat, and people need to think about this seriously.
That moment a few years back when everyone all of a sudden knew, okay, here is AI. Everyone can use it. They can go on the computer and they can speak natural language. The problem and the complexity with some of what we're talking about here, so quantum is being used for good, and quantum can definitely be used then for manipulating this data that's been taken and decrypted later. If you're harvesting today, you're not decrypting today because the technology is not there yet, but it will be, I think is the important.
So harvesting will decrypt in the future.
Yes.
But isn't there a shelf life to most data? Like my account balance from 5 years ago doesn't make a difference today.
But if you take it beyond that and you talk about financial organizations, medical organizations, the length of data that we have to be mandated to store this data is getting longer and longer and longer from a compliance perspective. And so that is the crux of it is, yes, your balance is not that important. It may not be going after your balance, but there's a lot of trade secrets around there that are. Yeah.
And not only that, but your name is still relevant, your address, any other identifying information around your account, medical record numbers. A lot of the data in certain types of industries has an indefinite time period where it's valuable. So it's
corporate data, algorithms, stuff like that.
Yeah, but is this like SSL? You know how Heartbeat came out and SSL was a thing everyone had to do suddenly had this moment of realization that, oh, we should probably go to the future version. It's been compromised. Is that what we mean by when the Q-Day happens, all of us would have to suddenly switch from whatever we're doing today to whatever the PQC, would that be the right word for this?
I think the better way to look at it is yes, Heartbleed movement is a really good example, but also the migration from DES to AES. Not migration from DES to triple DES, that happened too.
Yep.
But it did not solve the problem. So the problem here is if DES is broken, you migrate out of DES to some new algorithm, which hopefully stands the test of time, right? So that is the goal here. So you have existing algorithms, which from an algorithm strength standpoint, we have theoretical proof that it's going to be broken. So you migrate out of that algorithm to a net new complex math-based algorithm, which theoretically cannot be broken by a quantum computer. And that's what is called post-quantum cryptography, or PQC. That's what PQC acronym stands for.
Isn't that a chicken and egg problem? Like, how do I know that would work?
Well,
in the future?
So that's a great point. I want to tie together a couple of these concepts though. So you mentioned like data.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to that for half a second. A good way to think about it is if you've got, and you're absolutely correct, we refer to it as data shelf life. So you might have an application that's serving the cafeteria menu, but it doesn't really have, the data in that doesn't have a shelf life. Tomorrow it's useless. So you're absolutely right. I mean, there were some great examples given about PII, personal information, trade secrets, schematics for new rockets, all kinds of things. So you've got data shelf life. So you have sensitivity of data, you have data shelf life, and then the systems that this data is residing on. The other way to think about it is how long would it take you to, to remediate or upgrade the cryptography, on that system and the infrastructure and the network and so on. So when you sort of add all of these up, right, if the sum of that is greater than Q day, and again, we don't know when that is, you should have technically started remediating that system yesterday, okay? Because in effect, if you're using outdated crypto, you're essentially transmitting data in clear text.
Well, one of the sticking points there is that system. It's like, what system?
Yeah.
We're not just talking about the database and encryption at rest.
Yeah.
I mean, you hear an OpenSSL vulnerability come out and it's like, whoa, that is baked in so many different places.
Yeah.
You guys talked about it at your Quantum Summit. Visibility is one of the core pillars. It's probably one of the hardest, in my opinion, who's been on the practitioner side. If I was tasked with, hey, go fix the crypto that we use everywhere, what's everywhere, right? Where, it's going to touch so many different bits of code that my team doesn't even write. Things that are just part of these operating systems and stuff like that. Can you guys talk more about that visibility?
Precisely that mindset shift.
Yeah.
I think you just answered your question.
Well, the visibility part, how?
It's precisely.
What is it? What are we talking about?
So it's precisely that mindset shift, right?
Yeah.
You have an inventory of your assets.
Yeah.
You have an inventory of the vendors who provide these assets. You have a life cycle associated with these assets, be it a laptop for your employees all the way to firewalls or some sort of a SaaS vendor who's providing a service. You have a clear understanding of what these assets are, who the vendors are, what's the next update, when is it coming out, roadmap, etc. What you've never done for cryptography is manage such a life cycle.
Yeah.
And that is what is actually the need of the hour. Like what's going to have to change moving forward, because we already talked about it. A PQC, it's a chicken and egg problem. You really don't know if the existing standards are going to stand the test of time. So what we have to start changing in that CISO mindset is start treating cryptography as an asset inventory requirement. It is going to have to be inventoried, lifecycle managed. Every device, asset, SaaS, application, etc., will need to have a roadmap for it. You'll need to have agility around it. You'll need to require upgrades which are more modular and doesn't require a maintenance window or taking down an entire infrastructure to go through a patch upgrade. An OpenSSL vulnerability can be controlled and can be kind of zoned, so you know where the challenge or the concern is to go patch. That's the end goal. That's the end state we want to get to.
I mean, those inventories are hard with current stuff, right? Of just like what's installed where is a really hard question for a lot of companies to even answer. Never mind what cipher suite do you use in a certain thing. I mean, it's a really, really hard inventory. So that's the thing that keeps me up of what you guys are saying for sure. It's a lot of work, a lot of remediation.
Extend the example just a bit more, because I worked in a bank some time ago and we had this, when there was a TLS shift that happened where, hey, everyone should be TLS 2.0.
1.2.
1.2? I'm at 2.0. Like, I'm already crypto ahead.
You're ahead of the game.
I'm already PQC now.
Get to 1.3.
Yeah. So I guess one of the challenges we had was, as a bank, a lot of the customers we had, they were on old computers, Windows, laptop, and I remember talking to the CTO about this, where the struggle was, if we update ourselves to TLS 1.2 or 1.1, but the grandma down the street only uses this Windows 98, which doesn't even support the latest Internet Explorer. What is it? How are we going to deal with that particular problem? Or is there already being spoken about? We're addressing this. What's the play there?
So I think, as Rishu pointed out, the scope is every asset in an organization. I mean, it could be anything. It's your watch, it's your phone, it's the microphones we're all wearing, everything in an organization. But if you break that down to more practical terms, right? You have a set of devices, could be your MacBook or your Windows laptop with a browser on it, that kind of thing, an IT asset. Then you have all these assets with embedded firmware, IoT assets, operational technology assets. These are things that are much more difficult to upgrade to support the latest and greatest software than something like a laptop or a piece of software on a laptop. So if you look at just kind of the device side of the house, there's a subset of devices that are much more problematic because that IoT asset may be running some embedded version of Linux, can't possibly be updated to support new version of software. So that's a big problem, whereas every major browser on the planet already supports these post-quantum ciphers, as an example. So you have kind of a bit of a jump start just because of the pace of software development on the device side. But yeah, IoT assets, that are in a factory floor, as an example, running Windows XP from 20 years ago, that becomes a big problem for a lot of organizations. And those vendors don't typically provide the kind of software updates and supports that are required to make this migration, but at least it scopes down some of your problem on the device side. And then if you look at applications, a couple different forms of applications. There's major SaaS applications, Microsoft, Google, Salesforce, Slack, all these kind of big, well-known applications. All of those, if they haven't been upgraded to support post-quantum ciphers, they will in the time period that we're talking about. So, kind of your SaaS apps, the core workhorse of today's, modern enterprise, for the most part, those will get taken care of, as will a lot of packaged software applications that are deployed inside of a data center, inside of an organization's their own cloud environment. So those are also covered. The big problem on the application side is the internally developed applications. Sometimes we talk to these organizations, they may have 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 internally developed applications. And the biggest problem there is that the developer for those applications left 10 years ago. They're not there anymore. Nobody knows the code base.
Yep.
And this is, so at least two of us on this panel remember the Y2K problem. haven't,
What are you talking about?
What are you pointing at? I'm looking at you, man.
I mean, that's when he lost his hair. That's when he lost all his hair.
But it's a similar kind of thing. These things have been developed long ago. They're still critical to business operations inside of these organizations, but it's a massive problem just to kind of understand the code base once again, let alone introduce new libraries that support these
I like to call those
safe algorithms.
Load-bearing vulnerabilities. So.
Yes, absolutely. But if you think about it, those are the two big problems, right? Devices with embedded firmware that can't be upgraded, and applications that are, this long tail of applications in an organization that it's going to require a massive IT budget and time kind of project to get things done that will, for most organizations, will take many years.
Because it's just not you, but also your supply chain that needs to be updated.
Exactly.
Yes.
That's right.
I walked in with a view that was going to be a bit more about, I don't know if I'll learn something new, but I'm walking away learning a lot more than I thought.
It's really awesome to just come and talk with people that look at this stuff every day, have such a unique view of the internet and all the data that you guys have access to here at Palo Alto Networks, so that we can, actually figure out what's going on, what's the real risk, what's sci-fi, and what's in between.
Does it need to be a mentality shift though? So it's not just a case of, okay, let's identify them, let's plug it in, and away we go. Does it need to be a mentality change where actually this is an ongoing thing? So now, yes, you've got 4,000 apps. All of a sudden you've got 8,000 apps. You've got to plan ahead for this. And you touched a little bit on it, like agility to be able to adjust as these algorithms are changing. Do you want to touch a little bit more on that? Because I know that's a topic that I don't think is covered in enough detail on. Actually, it's not just Q day and done. It's Q day plus, so on and so forth.
Yeah. So I'll start, but I know the team will have input as well. Back to the data, right? Because data is sort of the center of the universe when it comes to this particular challenge. So as you're remediating things, right? A lot of the mentality, when I talk with customers, the mentality is, well, we just patch it, right? And you have to. That's an old way of thinking. It's not just patch. It's not a one and done. And as Rich indicated, right, it is a multi-year journey. And if you've got 3,000, 4,000 applications in your environment, even if you could do one a day, one every 2 days, right, you're still on a 10-year journey to get all of that fixed if you started right now. That being said, Rich, you also touched on this ability to keep an eye now on all of these things, right? And again, the term I think we're starting to see floating around the industry is crypto agility, right? And so at its most simple, that's the ability to swap these this cryptographic algorithms in and out without having to tear everything down and do a rip and replace. And that includes all of the brittle legacy applications, like Rich was indicating, IoT apps and the Windows 95 app running in a warehouse somewhere. I hope that's not really happening, by the way, but
It is.
I know it is. I know it is happening. So yeah, all of that, and then everything in between. And then back to, again, I think a super important point that Richie made was about elevating crypto to becoming an asset, right? It needs to be classified just like your laptop, your phone, your router, and other network devices. It needs to be up there. It needs to be managed and monitored so that you can do this swap in and out.
Terms like crypto agility need to stick in people's brains, because this is something that we need to figure out the playbook for now, because you don't want to be caught on your heels not having any idea of what to do, of what algorithms do I have to swap out, where do I actually have to worry about this?
I think this is a great place to look at a clip from the Quantum Summit between Michael Sikorsky and Dr. Dustin Moody. Let's roll the tape.
The Harvest Now, Decrypt Later is emphasizing the fact that steps need to be taken decisively now, because these were important for protection of sensitive data now, especially sensitive data that has a long shelf life, as well as considering what that would mean for the organization in the future. This is about mission execution. This is about gaining public trust. This is ensuring the mission over time. And I think that resonates with senior executives. I think it's one thing to say, we can set a target date years in the future. We have limited resources and we'll take steps accordingly over time. It's a different story to say, you need to be thinking about protecting your assets, protecting your information now, especially that sensitive information that has a long shelf life. How can we take steps now with PQC readiness in mind to know that adversaries, as you mentioned, do not need to have a quantum computer today to do harm now?
Okay, so a lot of information to be able to take in there. As you guys, did you understand what was being said there? Is there any follow-up questions you have based on what you saw in the clip?
Yeah, I do. So one of the things I learned from the Quantum Safe Summit was this, the goalposts keep moving, right? And he just touched on it there, right? This isn't going to be the last time. Like PQC, we did it, mission accomplished, banner drops, right? Like we're good. So how much do organizations, you guys kind of partner with these orgs and really advise them on this stuff. How much do orgs need to be the ones paying attention to how many qubits are we up to this week versus how many qubits do we need to break these things, right? I think it was 20 million a few years ago and now it's 1 million. And how many experts do I need? I'm a practitioner. Do I gotta go hire a physicist to keep up with this stuff, or am I looking at you guys to help me?
What is a qubit as well? I don't know what's a qubit.
We did the coin, come on.
Yeah, I was just kidding.
Well, first let me start by saying, respond a little bit to Dr. Moody there. We have been going through these crypto migrations continuously throughout at least the multiple decades that the gentleman to my right and I have been in this business. When we first started in our careers in the early aughts or maybe the late 90s, depending on which one of us we're talking about, we were using 128-bit RSA as kind of the gold standard for encryption. That was secure enough to keep our data safe. And over time, we've had to make these cryptographic migrations. We've changed some of the cryptographic algorithms, but primarily we've been extending key length. And every time you extend that key length, it makes it exponentially more difficult for the more and more powerful classic computers that we have to break that encryption. So there's this crypto migration and this crypto journey isn't just a now moving forward thing. It's been an ongoing thing over time. It's a little bit different now because we're moving to these post-quantum ciphers. And I don't know if yet we've really defined what a post-quantum cipher is.
No.
And I'm going to do this in simple terms
about?
again because I think it's important. The details are perhaps less important than the simple terms. A post-quantum cipher, if you were to look it up somewhere, what most people would agree upon as a definition is that it's a cryptographic algorithm that can be implemented using a classic computer today, which is very important. You don't need a quantum computer to generate quantum safe encryption. You can do it on the type of compute that we have available to all of us today. So it's a cryptographic algorithm that can be implemented on a classic computer today that is believed to be safe against both a classic attack from a classic computer as well as an attack from a quantum computer. And
Very
right,
careful.
the word believed
Yeah.
is the critical element here. Right?
Yeah.
And it's because we don't know definitively until there is a cryptographically relevant quantum computer that's able to attack these things on an ongoing basis. Then we will know somewhat more definitively that, and so this is why crypto agility is such an important thing. We will have to continue to evolve as as you mentioned before, as AI meets quantum and you have even more capabilities available to, to these systems, we'll have to continue to evolve. And so you're right, it's an ongoing migration that has started, decades ago, continues through today, and will continue into the future as well. And what Dr. Moody was talking about is we may have to switch to those cryptographic algorithms again. There's a handful of them that are out there that are at least theoretically proven, but they haven't really stood the test of time yet.
What is the believed part? You mentioned key length was what we've done. We've done the key length, make the key length thing bigger. We've done SSL 3 to TLS 1.1. What is this jump? Can you explain this jump of like what we're doing? That
I think what's the concept behind?
Yeah. Is it just
the
more
actual algorithm itself?
Yeah.
Without getting into the algorithm.
I could take a pass,
Yeah,
right? I mean, so traditionally, right, with the way encryption has been working today, it's based on very hard math problems, right? At its most simple. And so the way we look at a lot of the encryption today, one of those math problems is based on prime numbers, right? So you might have a number, and you say, can you figure out what two numbers multiplied together, prime numbers multiplied together, make this number, right? And so when you're doing it at that stage, that's a very simple problem to solve. We could whip out a sheet of paper, we'd probably do it in our mind and get the answer. So the way traditional encryption's been working is those numbers have been extremely long and large, right? And you wouldn't be able to do it on a piece of paper. It would take multiple lifetimes to get that answer. And a classic computer would take multiple years, right, centuries to figure out that particular problem. So that's sort of the way things are today. Now, when quantum comes along, back to the spinning coin analogy, right? Or another one I like to use is you have a room, a large gymnasium full of bells. And what quantum's trick is, because it works on this concept of superpositioning, it can ring every bell at the same time, all at once, right? Instead of classic computers ringing a bell, not the right tune, ringing a bell, not the right tune, going around and round and round, right? Which would take centuries to do. Quantum can ring every bell all at once at the same time. And the wrong answers cancel each other out automatically. And then what happens is the one bell left ringing is the answer. That's why quantum, at a very simple example, analogy, breaks the hard math problem, right? So the new quantum, the sort of PQC idea, right, is that these algorithms, and again, I won't get into them, it's probably out of scope for this discussion, but it uses lattice math, right? So it uses a more complex type of math that it's believed today that quantum computers just aren't good at, right? Back to the bell analogy, right? So imagine now all these bells in this large room, but each bell is dented slightly, right? And so when you ring them, no two bells sound the same. They're all noisy and fuzzy and random. And quantum computers don't like that. They like patterns. They're really good at detecting patterns, not very good with noise. So the idea behind this lattice math is that it introduces noise that quantum is not very good at calculating.
And to add to that, to your question about who keeps in check about when is RSA being broken and how many qubits is required, etc. So the latest known prime number that a stable quantum computer was able to break or reverse engineer is 21. So 7 times 3, 21 is what's known, and that was back in 2012. What I'm trying to get to is there's theoretical proof or information that you need about 4K logical qubits. Again, to Michael's point, each logical qubit then maps to thousands, if tens or hundreds or sometimes thousands of physical qubits. So we're still at the order of 1 million physical qubits, stable, noiseless, and error correction taken into incorporation to get to those 4K qubits and then be able to break RSA 2K keys specifically. So when does that happen? We really don't know. We are at a stage where we talked about 1,200 logical qubits that was achieved, which has stability, etc. But still a while away before we achieve those 4K logical qubits. So long story short, what we're trying to get to here is you probably don't need to keep in check about how and when the cryptographically relevant quantum computer comes to viability. But what you do need to take into consideration is the migration itself, to the moving to these newer algorithms, the PQC algorithms, across these disparate heterogeneous environments in your infrastructure is going to take a lot of time. Working through these vendors and working alongside them and getting to the roadmap to something that's agile at an asset level as well as agile for your security policy level is going to take a while to get formulated. So starting now would be ideally the right time, and especially in regulated industries who have some sort of a deadline approaching 2030. RSA and ECC is going to be deprecated as of 2030. 2035, according to US government mandates, 2033 according to Europe mandates. So every government agency in the world has at least put down a deadline for regulated industries where data is at most sensitivity. So taking action now from a migration standpoint is really what you need to be considering.
People are building systems today. Do you have recommendations between, should they just swap out the encryption they have, put in the PQC recommendation and move on, or should they build in a way that's more flexible for the future? And if so, why?
Exactly, and there's a term given to that notion. It's called crypto agility. The idea that you can easily switch out your cryptographic algorithms that you're using today. We are going to need to transition to PQC. Is this going to be the last transition? No, we're going to need to switch to something else at some point. So it makes a lot of sense to build in flexibility, to have crypto agility while you're doing this, and have that future idea in mind that we're not going to be using these forever. We're going to need to do another switch. So anything that you can do along the way to make that easier for the future would certainly pay off.
So it sounds like if I'm a practitioner, I'm trying to hire inventory and supply chain specialists, not Nobel Prize winners that you guys got to talk to.
Asset inventory.
Yeah. Seems like find it all, figure out my upgrade path.
Yeah.
Not really worry about the bigger scope of where we at today on breaking this.
You guys obviously, being the experts, understand all the nuances on the maths and so on and so forth. Do most organizations and most CISOs, do they need to get into that? I always look at it as, I use Zoom every single day of my life. I have no idea how it's working under the hood, but I know I've got a nice picture. And I don't need to know how the GPU is working under the hood and processing everything. Is that the same for quantum? And really you just need to be aware of the limitations and capabilities? Or do people need to start to dig into what's a qubit and what's not and what's entanglement? Like, where does that line get drawn on what knowledge they should know versus what knowledge they should just be aware of? Does that make sense?
I think that for the leaders, like a CISO or some sort of cybersecurity leader inside of an organization, their biggest challenge is going to be interdepartmental, working with the application development teams, the teams responsible for, IT teams responsible for IoT devices that need to be upgraded. That's the big challenge. I think for 50 years, people have kind of just assumed that encryption works and not really understood the details under the covers, and that's been fine. And I think that will continue to be fine. But I think people will have to make the case internally to other parts of the organization why this is a threat. So I don't, when we first started talking about this to some of our early customers a couple years ago, we were talking about qubits and superposition and quantum entanglement and all this kind of stuff, and people's eyes would just roll back. And it's like, the more time you spend thinking about it, the more confusing it gets, right? Yeah. So it's really, it can be broken down to something quite simple. We have a time horizon, as Rishu mentioned. In certain industries, certain organizations, there's a defined, sort of end date, a deadline, driven by some sort of regulatory compliance or something along those lines.
I think the U.S. is, 2035 or something? Is what I
Yep, absolutely, right?
So we hopefully are before that, because the U.S. is a little bit slow with a lot of regulations, right?
I think it really comes down to the industry. So U.S. mandates might say 2035, but if financial industry perceives that the threat is real and is immediate for them, which they believe so, and they have regulations and compliance to answer to, so they've already started taking action, right? So yes, PQC, I know we're talking majorly about post-quantum cryptography, but there are also the fallback mechanisms, which are quantum key distribution solutions and a few others, which every industry, especially the industry with high sensitive data, is taking into account that if PQC were to fail, is there a fallback that I should consider? It's very clear that the threat is not just perceived, the threat is real.
Well, and it's not really, wouldn't even say it should be industry-based, because I think it should be nation-state-based. I mean, we're always talking about cyber warfare and what's going on, and it's all the stuff that you can't see. But to be honest, I don't really care if the financial industry is doing anything. I care if, one of our nation-state threat actors has already broken it and is already infiltrating and we have no idea. So like what's really the difference, or what's your opinion on, like, does it need to be industry-based? Does it need to be nation-state-based? And like, how are you looking at quantum from like a cyber warfare or nation-state or nation threat actor perspective?
Most organizations should start today.
Yeah.
With that concern in mind, right? I think the deadline gives it kind of a hard, end game for a lot of organizations, because I think what's difficult about the quantum threat that is somewhat different than other types of threats is we know it's coming, but there's an uncertain time horizon. It may be 3 years, it might be 5 years, maybe 10 years, at the maximum. We don't know for certain. And to your point in your question, Caitlin, we know what the big commercial projects are doing. Google, IBM, Microsoft, they publish their results. It's great marketing for them, and we'll know. But the nation state actor, we won't know. Maybe it could already be happening, right?
Could already be happening.
Yeah, I just want to extend on 2 points. Back to, again, the idea of how to go about doing these things. An organization does not need to hire a quantum physicist to get this done, right? I think you started on the process. It's like you got to discover, you need to find it, then you need to sort of evaluate it, back to its data shelf life and how difficult and what are all the systems that it touches, what's the supply chain, and then prioritize it. Then you need to fix it and remediate it, and then you need to monitor it and watch it. And then along the way, form this sort of governance, sort of center of excellence, if you will, to just keep an eye on things. And as new projects come online, make sure that from henceforth, there'll be PQC. And then, and again, just get on the treadmill of fixing these things.
You don't need to go hire the Nobel Prize winner to your team to figure out what you need to do for quantum. You need to do security stuff, right? And that's kind of was my assumption coming into this. Where I kind of got it wrong was some of the inventory stuff that we hit on a lot yesterday, right? Of really understanding where you're using certain crypto algorithms that would be weak to a post-quantum threat. And understanding that inventory is a lot of work, and the remediation effort is going to be a multi-year long effort. So while we might not need to understand the physics of qubits and where we're at and all this kind of stuff on your run-of-the-mill security team, we do need to understand the threat a little bit holistically and have our plan in place.
And then back to, let's kind of remember why we're making a little bit of a fuss about this. And it goes back to harvest now, decrypt later, right? That's the real risk, I think, and the threat, that there is activity of siphoning off traffic. Now, people say, well, what does that really mean? What do you mean siphoning off traffic? So at its most simple, again, I'll try to just relate this. Like, I have a computer and it needs to talk to another computer on the internet. And so there's things like DNS at play, but there's this thing called BGP, right? Border Gateway Protocol. This is what routers use to route traffic. So you could think of it as the GPS. So I have an address, I know I want to go to your house, but I need ways to tell me how to get there, right? So, routers are the GPS of the internet and they tell us how to get there. There's something called Border Gateway Protocol hijacking, right? Where these could be an accident or it could be malicious intent where the GPS is, new directions are inserted into it. Now your packet may get to its destination, but it takes a detour, potentially through an adversarial controlled data center that siphons off this data and then sends it along its way. You still get that transaction done, you still get that Zoom call, you still buy that thing online, but unbeknownst to you, your data took a turn and went, and was saved for later stuff. That's the whole harvest now, decrypt later type concept.
And by the way, this is not just theoretical.
Yeah, I've run incident response at some really large organizations. I've worked with the threat intelligence teams and the SOCs, and I want to speak directly to them for a second, right? Like, this ephemeral future thing, we've talked a lot about it, and we know kind of plan now, remediate, like get stuff going. What signals should we be looking for in that, if anything, of like, hey, someone's looking to do this kind of, like, this threat is becoming real in your environment.
Yeah, so there's two states to that, right? So let's talk for a second just about back to harvest now, decrypt later. why that's so dangerous is it's ubiquitous, and you won't necessarily see a signal that that's happening, right? So that's why.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah,
I was
which is
like,
why,
I don't know if there's anything I would look
It's
for.
going to be all your fault when it happens because you didn't
right,
identify
like,
it.
you know, that could be very invisible, right?
Yeah.
So, and that's what's so dangerous about it. But then there's this state where you're starting on your journey to becoming PQC, right? And there will be some interesting indicators and things we can do there. Richie, can you expand a little
Absolutely.
on that?
So one of the ways that let me first clarify. Most of the attacks that you will see post-quantum are attacks that you already see today. These are your existing TLS downgrade attacks, your weak ciphers in use, which were forced by a man-in-the-middle kind of attacks. So what we are trying to suggest is, even after your remediation, even after your migration, you've brought your browsers and your applications to PQC supportability, but there could be a man in the middle who's forcing a TLS downgrade, which is your classic existing attack, right? So continuing to monitor the behavior of these assets post-migration is going to be the critical piece, just like you monitor your existing sessions for any potential threat, any malware injection, etc., right? So monitoring it from a cryptographic standpoint is where you'll start noticing PQC ready, but suddenly I see TLS 1.0 being negotiated and the RSA 1K kind of certificate being exchanged. What's going on? And you start auditing that just to realize that it was a man-in-the-middle attack.
So anyone who responded to Poodle or Heartbleed already practiced this muscle. It's the same
Yes.
muscle.
Yeah, there was definitely.
Pretty much.
Yeah, and I think I want to underscore that conventional cybersecurity is alive and well in this space, right? The attacks will be the same. I also, similar in nature. I also think that, again, we've been talking a lot about data on the wire, right? I look at, there's data at rest, there's data on the wire, and there's data in use, like think tokens, authentication, identities, things like that, right? So all of these are susceptible. So if you are attacked and data's been exfiltrated, that data is very much at risk, right? If it's using old ciphers or old encryption mechanisms.
So quantum's not going to solve phishing, is what you're telling me? Yeah. Okay. Seems like it's gonna. What's old is new again.
Yeah. But you've obviously talked a lot about the harvest now, decrypt later. Are there other new attack vectors that quantum is going to enable that you may not have even thought about, but it's just concepts at the moment?
Great.
Or is that really the one that everyone needs to be worried about? Because it's the one that people talk about a lot, but there are other aspects out there.
Yeah, I think, so just taking a stab at that. So one of the lesser known or lesser talked about potential risk or attack vector is with the PKI, with your digital identity, your certificate-based securities. There is the trust now forged later attack. So potentially somebody who has access to the certificate's private key being able to forge that certificate in the future, so forging an identity in the future, right? So this is sort of a known attack, right? It can be done even today for older certificates which are using weaker encryption and weaker signature algorithms, but potentially can get scaled as you have to now migrate from existing digital signature algorithms to post-quantum signature algorithms. So this could become a larger attack vector, especially knowing that certificates are a source of identity for almost every asset out there, not just a personal or a person behind that associated identity, but also the digital or the asset identity itself.
Well, we just did that. We did this on purpose with zero trust, massive zero trust efforts to move to stuff like this. And this almost seems like a new phase of zero trust.
Yes, actually, so everything from post-quantum migration does tie right into zero trust. If you think about it from an architecture standpoint, what you're doing is extending your operational modernization for your infrastructure for zero trust in the future.
I need an aspirin.
My head hurts from thinking about all the identities.
I have one more that's sort of we haven't really touched on yet, and that's that as these post-quantum ciphers become, this is all readily available in software today, there's kind of another challenge with that, and that is that attackers will use these post-quantum ciphers to actually get some of these basic attacks inside of an organization, because they're aware of the fact that most organizations are not yet using their network security tools to decrypt the traffic inside of those post-quantum ciphers. So there's a timing issue there as well, where I can get an attack inside of an organization without it being inspected by most network security products today. And that's a very real and present danger as well.
Seems like something you would be worried about specifically.
We're worried about it, but of course we've upgraded our products to protect our customers against those types of attacks.
Every time I do any type of like technical interview, we're always talking with really, really intelligent people, but a lot of times they aren't the best at communicating to like the general public. And I know this because half the time I don't understand what they're saying. But this interview, I was very blunt and with my questions and like very basic. And I feel like just having sat in the room with them for an hour, I can now say I'm a quantum expert.
Well, now that our head's spinning and we have so much information, I always love to talk about like what people can do right now, what CISOs can do right now. And one of my favorite parts of the Quantum Safe Summit was actually hearing about the inventory. It was a really big light bulb moment for me because when I first started in cyber, we really were looking at data protection, and we were just talking about at the way beginning how this is really all around data. And what we did in order to start that data protection was do high value asset inventories, or HVAs, which is you look at the most important thing and you create inventories of like, what is, if this broke down right now, like this would be awful. So like the inventory, thinking about it from that perspective when we're talking about quantum is like you wanted to start with, it's a risk-based approach. So you want to start with like the highest risk of an asset and you kind of just build those inventories. But what else can you guys talk about with the inventory? Because I think it's so important that CISOs can really do to start working now. And we talked about, you can hire someone that builds those inventories to start making sure that we're safe. But what are other 3 key things that CISOs can do right now?
Or maybe to add a layer to that as well. Because these days it's not just simple inventory like we talk about IoT devices. I could be a cloud forward one. I've got containers, Kubernetes, throw some more I guess I'm going to throw AI under the bus in here as well. So there's like AI workload as well, which I'm trying to manage. So even with that kind of complex environment where most people are today walking towards AI and most CISOs have that as a priority too.
Third-party inventory.
Third-party inventory, supply chain is a big thing as well. There's already a lot happening in their world, right? Are there like basic to what she said, are there 3 things that we can walk forward with? Maybe walk to the board and go, hey, if I do these 3 before 2035, I can at least say I'm sort of okay.
Yeah, I'll start. I'll say this. You're right. I think it's important to not underestimate not only the importance, but the challenge of inventory, right? Inventory, if you talk to customers about, hey, do you have a up-to-date, CMDB? And they'll say, wow, it's a shot, asset management's a shot in the dark. Quote, right? I've actually heard that. So I agree, right? It's very important. The other thing I just want to make a comment about is someone whipping open a spreadsheet. Now, spreadsheets have their place in this process, but I think we're going to outgrow them very quickly, right? So if you're assessing a maturity model, you're assessing process, or assessing an organizational structure, spreadsheets have their place. But very quickly, just based on what you were saying about you have AI and you have supply chain, you have these legacy applications and IoT and all the brittle things, the spreadsheet you'll outgrow it very quickly. And so you got to get to this place of, you'll hear the term CBOM, right? Cryptographic bill of materials being used. So you got to get to this, you need to get to a place of dynamic CBOM. And I think that's, how do you get there? It's by integrating tools. Richi, right? Would you agree with trying to bring these things together?
Yes, absolutely. And to add another acronym in the mix, ACDI, you need to automatically cryptographically discover an inventory and do it continuously.
What's ACDI?
So automated continuous discovery for your inventory.
Okay.
Is that even possible today?
I told you to be acronyms.
Okay, I just want to make sure that I wasn't the only one out of the loop here. I had no idea what that meant.
So is it even possible to answer your question? What you're at least trying to do today is leverage existing cryptographic asset management tools to be able to read from existing cryptographies in support, and then watch for network traffic to understand what's in negotiation. So in support versus in use, and build an inventory through that. So it's not easy, as Michael said.
But I think what's great is that there are so many different products out there already deployed in a typical enterprise that are kind of have visibility into the types of cryptography in use that it's, as Michael was saying, we don't need to go around with a spreadsheet or someone with a clipboard, taking inventory or an iPad. We don't need to deploy a whole bunch of new sensors across an organization's network to get this inventory. It simply means taking visibility that already exists from across the organization and consolidating into one place. And then, Caitlin, to your point, helping organizations assess and prioritize based on risk, right? And so, of course, our starting point in this was our unique vantage point in the network, where we're seeing all the digital communications across 80,000 organizations. And we pulled that into this consolidated inventory view first, and then we thought, okay, well, there's a number of other products that we can pull in data from as well, either in the network or various other parts of cloud infrastructure, as an example. And as you piece together maybe 6, 8, 10 different products across an organization, now all of a sudden you have a really complete view of all the assets in use, their cryptographic capabilities, and the ability to build this prioritization. So it may sound like a really big and daunting kind of thing for most organizations, but it's not a human sort of problem. It's a problem that can largely be automated with the right tools to get that assessment.
It sounds like vulnerability management again, right? Like I would
You're
get
just
the phone
trying to
call.
plug vulnerable you.
Oh no. Thanks.
Yeah.
No, it's like I would get the phone call if a big vuln came out, right? And the questions that I got asked every time was, are we running this? If so, where? Is it exploitable? And is it on the internet? And those questions, if I could answer those quickly, I was doing my job well. Sometimes you'd get to like the second or third one and someone would break out a spreadsheet to be able to try to answer that question, and all of a sudden things really slow down, right? So it just sounds like we're doing the same thing, but instead of what version of this package are you running somewhere, it's what crypto algorithm is being used in such certificate.
Yeah, and in some cases it's the capability of the asset. It's in other cases it's the actual cryptographic algorithm being negotiated. And so you want some view of both the kind of the asset capabilities itself, but then also what's practically being used primarily for data in motion and these types of things. But you're right. I mean, fundamentally, if you break it down to that, slightly different use case, but not dissimilar from vulnerability management in terms of being able to figure out where you have gaps and what is potentially exploitable.
We walked into the room, there's a lot of acronyms and people don't understand everything to do with quantum. And when they realized, oh, it's just like some of the things that we've done before, but with some more complicated math, that was a real moment for me because you don't see it that often. I have a follow-up question that's very related to what we're talking about. So having been in quantum now for 6 years, going on 7 years, quantum was around, AI appeared. AI sucked all the air out of the room when it comes to quantum. There's a lot of different quantum events out there, both for good and talking about what we're talking about here. AI has become the big topic. So now a lot of these CISOs now to be able to do what we're talking about, one question is it cheap to get started? Is it not? The other piece is, how do they work within their boards to be able to raise it to a level? Is it already being raised to the level of talking about this with the boards? Or is everyone talking about AI and that's the only topic? How do the folks that watch this, the CISOs out there and the teams that they work with, bring this to the right level without slamming something on the table and saying, Q-Day's coming and everything's gonna go crazy? Because they'll look at the internet and go, oh, it's 10 years away. It's always been 10 years away. So how do you balance that? It's very real, we need to think about it, but bring it up to the level that the senior managers within organizations are gonna be at, because they're not gonna be talking about qubits and so on and so forth. They're not gonna understand any of the acronyms we've talked about here.
You could use a coin.
You could use a coin, but like, what advice do you give from that perspective, and what have you seen already today?
I think the most simplest way to start, and which has actually helped a lot of our customers, is for them to understand their own crypto debt.
Crypto debt instead of tech debt? Never heard that before. Super cool.
The triple DES or the DES that's still in negotiation, the RSA 1K key certs that are still in negotiation, anything SHA-1 that's still used in a session, anything that should have been migrated out of potentially a decade ago that's still in use should be alarming. And that's an alert from the SOC, that's an alert at your network security platforms, as well as now your next step is going to be auditing the source and the desk who's negotiating these, right? So even just starting there has given CISOs a good understanding of what percentage of their existing data is already at risk. It's a data exposure risk that is from yesterday. So if it's less than 10% potentially, that's not something that they would concern themselves with. But if they start noticing, because it's all about what's being negotiated in the infrastructure. So if they start noticing anywhere from 10 to 40%, which we've seen a swing go up to 40% and then come back down, that is an alert. Now suddenly you don't know what kind of data was negotiated in those sessions. So making sure that it's not part of the HVA, the high value assets, or not a super VIP or a VIP user who's actually somehow going through a TLS downgrade attack or some other kind of downgrade attack, right? So even just at a SOC level, there are these alerts from a cryptographic standpoint, which will get an enterprise to a clear posture about what is their data exposure risk today. And that's become a voice that leads into modernization for that existing infrastructure that needs to get to a secure state. And when you start talking modernization, the question is, like, where do I switch to?
Do I make the switch now or in the future?
Do I switch now, and what do I switch to? And the moment you talk, what do I switch to, it's not moving from that to RSA anymore. It's moving from that and taking a high jump all the way to post-quantum cryptography.
That's your in to be able to have that part of the conversation of there's these new things coming. Let's talk about monetization. Identify the risks that you already have internally, because you have to do that anyway, and think about it as future-proofing rather than forcing the change.
Are there any downsides? Like, we haven't really talked about that. Like, are there any downsides to moving to PQC? Like, is it more computationally expensive? Like, are there risks? Are we going to break systems?
There are risks. I mean, especially like Rich was talking about the IoT devices. Some of these things are tiny, you know, with firmware and small memory in them, and you know, potentially can't do the computations needed, right? Well, and it's not so much that they can't do the computations; it's more the storage needed. The keys are going to be larger, right? And so it's going to, and they'll crash if they don't have memory allocated for this type of.
Is my cloud bill going to go up? Like, you know what I mean? It's like if we're talking about dollars and cents.
I don't know that the cloud bill itself is necessarily going to be a direct cost, but these algorithms are definitely more computationally expensive, which has big impact on, you know, budgeting for the future. There's devices that need to be upgraded. Maybe there's servers or perhaps cloud infrastructure that applications are running on that need to be beefed up over time. That's kind of budgeting that has to start happening now, because you don't just flip the switch one day and all of a sudden have this, you know, the budget for these types of you know, big projects. But the biggest thing is the modernization of the applications, right? That's by far the biggest cost that needs to be accounted for in the near term. You know, as opposed to waiting until you know, the 11th hour.
Legacy apps, like you were saying, that business is dependent on, right? That has old crypto in it. You know, you need to find those and you know, and remediate them. Back to, for half a second, to the board. I think what was interesting with AI, when AI came, there was a lot of discussion at the board level. It was like, you know, okay, this is here. First things first. Let's discover where I know AI is in my environment. I have zero visibility to it. Help me find it. And then we help customers identify and visualize and see all of this AI in their environment. And then they could understand sanctioned versus unsanctioned, and they understood the risks associated with it. You know, employees, users were potentially putting sensitive information and sharing it with AI that may be unsanctioned in their environment. Now, the parallel over in quantum that you could use is, again, help me find it first. So you do a discovery and you find all of this outdated crypto in your environment. And then when you do that prioritization and you say, well, this is the high, like Rishi was saying, these are the high risk applications right now, then you can start to have that conversation about the risk is more understood. This is outdated, potentially could be susceptible to harvest now, decrypt later type of threats and risks. So we need to address it. And then you can get to that data sensitivity, data shelf life, and how long it's going to take to remediate. And those would be turn into meaningful conversations to unlock initiatives to start getting on that journey.
Sorry, you go first.
Oh, I was going to ask a random question, so if it's still...
Oh, no, it's kind of related, because I think a lot of us CISOs probably have, well, I just want to say multiple priorities. Depending on what industry you're working with, there is sometimes a stick approach, sometimes a carrot approach. Sounds like in certain organizations where there's a stick approach, where you mentioned financial institutions, where definitely, like my WhatsApp group of CISOs, especially who work in the financial industry, is already talking about PQC. Before I came into this conversation, I was wanting to know how far are we from the Q day, now that I understand. But there's obviously other organizations who probably would hear the same conversation and go, I don't think this is for me. Like, I don't have to be worried unless I have a supply chain directly with, say, a financial institute. Would that be true for people who are not in the industry, or is it for an everyone problem? Because I guess, I mean, we're talking about robotics and everything else in there, which may not have, it has a very gray area for regulation today. So is this an everyone problem?
Every industry has something that they consider a high value asset. It just looks different. So talk about industries like pharmaceuticals. They have their vaccine technology, which is intellectual property. Talk about a tire company. The polymer recipe that's used to make those tires as strong as, I'm giving examples because these are some customers that I recently talked to.
Oh, right.
The point is, every industry, every enterprise has something that they consider intellectual property, healthcare, our DNA forensics, our bioinformation, everything that needs to stay secret for the history of lifetime.
The recipe of your favorite soda.
Oh, yeah.
So
That's true. That's one of
yeah.
the largest kept secrets out there. I rotate my DNA every couple of years.
Yeah.
So you were talking robotics. So it's one intellectual patent information versus one industry versus another. So all of this, every enterprise has something that they want to make sure stays secret for the next 50, 100, or a lifetime.
Yep.
Right? So given that, it really comes down to first analyzing where that secret lives, where that data lives. If it's self-managed, self-hosted data center, great. I think you're already in a good shape. You'll have to secure the perimeters of that data center and access to that data, whoever is allowed access, and their VPN connections or SSL connections and so on. But if it lives in a cloud service provider, if it lives in a co-location, in a partner's environment, then you're in a state where you have to work through these vendor relationships to make sure their infrastructure is quantum ready, your connections or your source of your VPN connectors, your browser connectors, whatever else, connecting to those assets are also quantum ready, and potentially you're in a good shape. Right?
I have a very relevant follow-up question to that, because you talked about cloud and cloud infrastructure and the difference between on-prem and you just have to do the perimeter versus in the cloud. Are the big players already looking at this? Are they already doing it? Are they helping to secure? Because not every organization is large enough to be able to do this. How do the smaller organizations that are also having very sensitive data on me and you and everyone else, how are they protected? Are the big players helping from that perspective?
I don't think you have to worry about major software, software as a service or cloud vendors. Nearly everything of importance either has been upgraded to support post-quantum ciphers or will in the foreseeable future. I think that's sort of like, that's going to be solved because their business depends on they're going to just have too many requests from their customers over time to support this stuff. And largely, as I gave the example earlier, every major browser on the planet already supports post-quantum ciphers, right? So
they said, hey, you don't have to worry about the big SaaS providers out there, or like all major browser vendors already support a lot of the post-quantum stuff that they need to support today, even though we're a few years out. And so part of my assumption was true, right? A lot of security people, you don't need, or security teams, you don't need to go hire the Nobel Prize winner to your team to figure out what you need to do for quantum. You need to do security stuff.
I think that part of the problem is not something. I mean, organizations, of course, have to keep these, ensure that they know what the vendor's plans are if they haven't already supported. And then oftentimes you have to do change configurations, other types of things to make sure they support post-quantum ciphers. That's not going to be the big problem for most organizations, large or small. And for those smaller organizations, they probably have fewer of those internally developed applications that we talked about before. IoT and OT assets, who knows? But that's that's another thing. That's largely dealing with the vendor, or unfortunately budgeting to swap out the vendor, because if your security monitoring cameras don't support post-quantum ciphers and they can't be upgraded, well, you have a choice either to leave that data exposed when Q day comes, or swap that in for something else. So that's largely a budget problem. Doesn't make it easier, but it's not a problem that requires
a risk share.
Exactly.
I know you had a random hard pressing question you wanted to ask.
Very hard pressing. I mean, I'm assuming we're all quantum optimists here. So I kind of wanted to ask you, what are you guys most excited for? Because we talked about kind of like the doom and gloom, all the work that we have to do to prepare, all the things that we need to think about.
Doom and gloom?
But like, what are you, some of the stuff that we saw on the Quantum Safe Summit was all the cool applications of quantum, and it got me really excited. But I wanted to know what you guys were excited about you're working in it every day. Like, what are you most excited about, whether what you're doing or what you see in the future of how quantum's going to impact the world?
I mean, I think this quantum computing technology has the potential to solve some of the biggest most vexing, long-standing problems out there, right? Cures and finding new medications for illnesses that have been, plaguing the human population for long periods of time. Better modeling around, weather patterns and long-term climate changes. I mean, you name it. Any kind of big, complex problem, quantum computing has the potential to have a huge impact on.
And since we've put these machines out on the cloud and engaged over 300 network members into our business ecosystem, we've had over 95 prototypes that we've developed with partners. Some of them that are interesting to highlight. We've been working with Boeing, actually, and actually looking at corrosion of materials, because in the end, these quantum machines are actually good for understanding molecular structure and how things can react with other types of molecules. We've been working with Moderna to look at optimization of some of their mRNA sequencing, and we've been working with HSBC, right? And so this in the finance area where they're looking at optimal bond trading strategies as an example.
It's more potential than there is downside with regards to quantum. I think the thing that in the broader scope, what we're talking about today, the broader scope of quantum, this is a relatively small problem. We just have to change a bunch of cryptographic algorithms, some geeky stuff that 99% of the population hopefully will never ever even be aware of, and they'll only be aware of the huge problems that quantum computing is one day able to solve.
Yeah, plus one. I don't think I would agree. I just extend, right? I think, again, healthcare, weather, all these modeling, just very exciting. I think, again, back to just, the spending time in cybersecurity for as long as we have, all of us have, right? I think, watching the technology evolve and then participating in potentially protecting it, it's just sort of what gets me out of bed every day.
I think for me, job security.
We're all gonna have jobs.
I know I'm going to be solving this problem for the next decade, so there we go.
And quantum is doing a lot today. So 6 years ago I started, there was only 1 or 2 companies that had it. It is very widely available. So on the for good side, you can access quantum computers on pretty much all the major cloud providers, as well as to some of them direct. And you can look to employ them on machine learning problems, optimization problems. Eventually we'll get to the simulation. That's where your weather patterns come from. The quantum is not going away as a topic, and we just need to make sure that we tie both the good side and the potential risk sides together. With that, we obviously came here, there was lots of unknowns going into this, and you've had a really good, long, lengthy discussion about all the pros and cons and what do we do and all the rest of it. From your guys' side, did you now walking away from here, do you know a little bit more? Do you think, are you going to try and help to explain to some of your audiences what this means? Because you guys now have got probably more time with specialists than the majority of the people out there. So how are you guys going to help to also get the message out there about what needs to be done in the quantum space?
Can I explain quantum to someone like they are 5? I think I can.
I do have a Quantum for Babies book that we have read. So maybe I've already explained quantum to my daughter.
You know how we all have a piggy bank that we try and lock with this lock that mommy and daddy have a key for? What if you get a universal key that works in every lock that's possible? So it's like having one of those keys that you can pick up and unlock any of your, not just your piggy bank, you could unlock my piggy bank, your neighbor's piggy bank, your best friend at your childcare piggy bank.
Everyone can understand like the zeros and ones transition to qubits of, it's both 0 and 1. Can understand that at least conceptually of how that would kind of jump compute power. But translating that to how does that affect, my daughter's life or the average person on the street's life? That's really where the storytelling has to come in.
I'm gonna buy a coin first.
Solid choice.
Get a coin first because I don't have cash.
You can just use a challenge coin.
Yeah. Actually, a challenge coin would be so.
You just said you're going to buy a coin first?
I was because I'm like, I don't like tap everywhere. Yeah, I'm like, I don't take out cash anywhere. I'm like, I have to buy a coin. I may borrow Michael's coin, I guess.
His coin, like it's something special. It's like a quarter.
I'll just cherish it, put it on a plate. This is a very much relevant conversation for me, and I'm definitely walking away knowing that, because when I heard the word Q Day first, I just assumed Quantum Day, and it's going to be like a one big celebration, and that'll be the end of it. But then I hear this and go, oh wait, actually that's a bad thing. It's like Y2K happening again, but in that quantum context, and whether we're not ready for it, because I remember, I wasn't in the industry then, as you guys were, but I definitely was aware of, hey, everything's going to stop working because we'll be back to 0, 0. That's all I remember from it. So I feel like quantum is going to be something similar for them as well. So I'll be able to translate that a lot more, especially now that I understand that the cloud providers also supported, which is a huge amount of my audience that already are very native cloud, AI native kind of people. I think definitely feel they would walk away, and at least the conversations I can have would be a lot more informed about this as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah, one of the my favorite learnings from the Quantum Safe Summit, things that I didn't know, was that there's qualities of qubits. Like that, I heard like good qubits or like bad qubits, and then this whole like converging problem of number of qubits versus how many qubits we actually need to do some of the risky stuff and threats that we're talking about today. How like that number's going down and this number's going up, and like the reality is going to probably be somewhere in the middle. Those were some of the key takeaways from this. And then today, this was like the boots on the ground, real, like what do practitioners actually have to do. So no, thank you so much for this. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this was super helpful. My audience is mostly like the general public, so I think it's just more. This was the type of conversation that I love to have, because it's like, what do people need to do? What can we what do they need to think about? Do they even need to think about anything? And then like explaining it in an easy way. I mean, obviously, the Quantum Safe Summit was so helpful. You have all these industry experts. I'm sitting there, because I always feel like I'm the dumbest person in the room, which I love. That means I'm in the right room. But I'm always asking all the basic questions in my head, and I got to ask those, and they were answered so well. So thank you guys, because you guys were able to really make it understandable for me, which is hard. But no, this was super helpful, and I'm really going to make sure that I've already talked about quantum, because I'm over talking about AI. Like we need to move on. All right,
move the topic
move on to quantum. We got 10 years of quantum now. But yeah, so now I've been starting to talk about quantum a lot, and people are just like, "What are you talking about?" And now I can explain it a lot better. And I also am gonna I'm gonna go buy a coin.
And for you guys, obviously, you've had a great opportunity to be grilled by some of the folks that are out there, getting the hard questions from their different communities. Any last parting words that each of you would like to say?
It's going to be a long journey. We at Palo Alto Networks try to make it very simple to use our solutions. So definitely watch the Quantum Safe Summit and reach out to us. We're happy to help.
I really appreciate the opportunity to engage, and I also appreciate you guys amplifying the message, how important this is, and simplifying it and putting it in terms that all the varying audiences can understand. So thanks for doing that.
Yeah, I think for me, all this can sound complicated, but it doesn't. It's going to be time consuming. There's going to be budget required, but it's not something that requires a quantum physicist to solve for most organizations. We've done crypto migrations before. Everyone as a collective, group of organizations on the planet will get through this one as well. So it sounds complicated if you take all the quantum physics out of it. It's a relatively simple thing that just is time consuming and will require some resources to get it done.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks to both sides of the house. I know I knew a lot coming in. I definitely learned some stuff as well while I've been here, so I appreciate all of your time, and thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
The surprising part was how easy was it to understand without the technical jargon on some of the impacts quantum computing and PQC could have, and the importance of it.
Like, this isn't going to change the life of every single person, but it is going to be really important on the back end, and I think it's something that people need to understand with what's going on and what they need to learn, and honestly what they can do about it.
We as an industry are known for creating a lot of FUD, which is fear, uncertainty, doubt. But the conversation that I had with the friends that I have here and the executives who came in and spoke to us as well gave me more of a positive outlook that it is possible, as long as we start early enough. There is a possibility that we can get around this before the time or the Q day comes in.
Okay, great. We have this new computational power. What does that mean to me, right? Am I still going to log on to my computer the same way and go to meetings the same way, transact money the same way? And the answer is probably largely yes for a lot of people, right? But it's like, okay, what are the threats and what are the actual benefits to society that quantum's going to unlock?